start. Welcome everyone to another session of the Microsoft Excel Toronto Meetup group. We are in April, and today we have the one and only Mr. Excel, Bill Jelen. So thank you, Bill, for being with us today. I will talk a little bit about you in just a minute. I just want to go over a couple of things and then we will start with our session. So for those of you who are new here, of course, everyone knows how to use Teams these days. You can type in your questions in the chat. Grania and I and Aurora possibly will be monitoring the chat. If you want to ask a question, just raise your hand, use the icon to raise your hand, and when an appropriate moment comes up, we will call you to ask your question or make your comment. And of course, you can use the reactions as well. And if you have any problems with internet, hopefully not, but always trying to log out and come back usually helps. And I'm sorry that I don't have a better solution, a better recommendation than that one. That's the only one I have for now. We have a lot of new people joining us, so hopefully this will work well today. As you know, the session will be recorded, and in a few days we will upload it to our YouTube channel. You can find us on YouTube. Feel free to subscribe. But those of you who opted in or who did not opt out from the emails from the Meetup organizers will get an email in a couple of days saying, here's the link for the recording, here's the link for any files that Bill may share with us, and other useful information. And we are celebrating. There's a bunch of new things happening today. One of them is that we just reached 5,000 members on our group since last session. We have two people raising their hands, but maybe they wanted to clap. It's the one button that says react. Sati, do you want to say anything or?
It's just react.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I always do that mistake as well. When I want to clap, I click the hand, but it's the other icon that says react. Okay, let me see if I can play a little celebration video. Oh, maybe it's just a second. Let me stop sharing and share again because I want to share the sound. And otherwise you will not hear the video. So I want to share and I want to include the sound. Otherwise you guys will not hear. Okay, let's see if this works. Can you hear the sound? Great.
Oh yeah.
It's just music anyways. And that's it. So thank you everyone for joining us. Oh, look at this. We don't want to. Let's see. There we go.
Yes.
No, next. No. Let me stop sharing and then try again, move on to the next slide, because now this just wants to. Okay, so thank you everyone for being part of this journey. Thank you everyone, those of you who just joined recently. We had maybe 700 people joining very recently in the last few weeks. I hope you like it. I hope you like our sessions. We have two types of sessions going on at the moment, two sessions per month, one more dedicated to the fundamental features and the core features in Excel for those of you who are starting to learn Excel and want to start from the beginning and progress. Of course, we don't have, the sessions are not organized in a way that looks like a course. Each session is just a different topic, but we have the Excel Essentials series where you can find shorter sessions and simpler topics, and then we have the Excel Expanded series where you can find longer sessions with more advanced stuff. We talk about all the new stuff coming up to Excel, new features, new functions, all that. And I want to thank especially all the presenters like you, Bill, today here. For Bill, it's the fourth time that he's presenting to the Meetup group here in the past, since we started. Well, it's the third time presenting and the fourth session that you helped us. You presented about pivot tables before. You presented with Oz about the challenges we get when developing stuff in Excel. What else? You are presenting today, and then there was a commemorative, a celebration session back in 2020, I think, that we did a spreadsheet day, and you helped inviting our guests. And if you guys go and see the live videos, that's the only video that was posted, was recorded live. You will find very interesting guests there that Bill brought us. And Bill ended up not being able to participate in person in that session that day, but you helped us organize all that.
Rob Colley and Dan Feistra.
Rob Collin, right? Yes. Dan Faustra and David from, I can't remember his last name, from the Microsoft team.
David Gaynor?
No.
David, okay.
Yeah, I'll get there.
That's all right. Go watch the video if you want to find out, right?
Yeah. I'll check it. And so thank you, everyone. And thank you to Grania and now Aurora, who is now part of our organizing team as well, and other past members that we had in other phases of this project, helping organize and deliver these sessions. So going back to my presentation here. I don't know if Aurora is there, if you want to turn on your video. Just a little bit about all of us. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Celia Alves. I'm the founder of the group. Since 2019, we've been doing this. I'm an Excel MVP and work for Sheetcast, who happens to be our sponsor at the moment, our lead sponsor. Grania, she's been with us since our first moment. She's the co-founder of Women in Excel LinkedIn group that I wanted to put in the legend and then I forgot. Sorry about that, but I'll make it happen the next time. And Aurora, we don't see her. She's shy today. Maybe she will show up very soon. She has a background. She loves Excel, but she does a lot of other stuff related to web applications and databases. She has an IT background, and she will be helping us with new stuff that we have coming up soon for our members. So thank you to everyone who has been part of this project. Very quickly, please feel free to take a snapshot if you want. These are the new sessions, the next sessions we will have in April and May, and also June. There will be another session in June, and we have amazing guests and great topics for you to take advantage of. All this work is delivered to you for free by both the organizing team and by the presenters who take their time to prepare a session, prepare the files, and then come and be with us in person or live to deliver the topic. So it's a privilege to have this content delivered for free for all of us. Sheetcast, like I mentioned, is our lead sponsor. Sheetcast is an add-in that we can install in Excel to create web applications. And it's an interesting, very interesting product. We are just preparing the first workshop, training the first batch of builders who want to learn how to create web applications using Sheetcast. If you are interested in that, just connect with me, send me a message, and I'll send you the link for that workshop. I believe we still have a couple of spots available if you are interested, okay? And we have other sponsors. Solvent Excel is my consulting business. MrExcel.com, Bill's company that will be contributing with a couple of perks we will cover today later in the session. Women in Excel, co-founded by Grania. It's a group for women who like Excel and who want to share experiences, learn from each other, and you will receive this information on your email. So it has all the links and everything that you need to check this information, check these groups and these sponsors, and other resources so you will get all these on the email. Okay, so Bill Jelen is the author of none less than 69 books about Excel. 69 books. And the new one just came out recently. And you have two QR codes there. The one on top is if you want to try your luck today to get one of the 3 free copies we are going to give away at the end of the session. You need to be here by the end of the session. If I call your name and you are not here, no book for you.
Wow.
We will select another person. And then the second QR code, you will get access to this information again at the end, is if you want to buy a physical copy, because the copies we are giving away today are digital copies, okay? So if you want to buy a physical copy or you do not get lucky and you want to buy a digital copy for yourself, you have all the information there, and there's a discount, in fact, of 30% if you want to buy until 30 of June 30th. So still have time to take advantage of that promo. Okay. We have talked about pivot tables before. Like I mentioned, Bill Jelen has presented about pivot tables before, but today we have pivot tables with Copilot, Python, dynamic arrays, Power Query. Did I miss anything? I think I mentioned everything. We also have another session by Carlos Barbosa that you can check about pivot tables, a great session as well. And all the other topics that I mentioned, Copilot, Python, Power Query, we have a bunch of sessions. If you go through our records on YouTube and you are interested in any of those topics, you will find other sessions about those as well. We will have a poll soon to understand which one of these topics it was the one that you liked the most, or that sparked your interest to come to this session today. Okay, I'll just launch. Just remind me if I forget, but I'll launch the poll just very briefly. And these are the contacts where you can find Bill Jelen. I'm going to read Bill Jelen's bio because there's so much to cover that I just don't want to forget. All this is important, so bear with me. Bill Jelen is the host of MrExcel.com. Who does not know Bill Jelen? If you did not know Bill Jelen till today, you need to go there and register and subscribe. It's one of the biggest Excel YouTube channels, thousands of tutorials that Bill has been publishing along the years, throughout the years. You will find answers to everything or mostly everything about Excel. Um, Bill Jelen is also the author of 69 books, like I mentioned before, about Excel, including Excel Gurus Gone Wild, Excel 2019 Inside Out, and recently Microsoft Excel Pivot Table data crunching, including dynamic arrays, Power Query, and Copilot. He was the ESPN commentator for the World Excel Championship, has made over 80 guest appearances on TV Call for Help with Leo Laporte, and was voted Guest of the Year on Computer America radio show. He writes the Excel column for Strategic Finance magazine and has produced over 2,500 episodes of his video podcast, Learn Excel from Mr. Excel. Before founding Mr. Excel in 1998, Jelen spent 12 years in the trenches as a financial analyst for the accounting, finance, marketing, and operations departments of a publicly held company. For all his contributions over the years to the Excel community, Bill Jelen has been awarded Excel MVP for the past 20 years. So, and this is just the tip of the iceberg, I would say, from all I know from you, Bill. Your channel was one of the very first ones I discovered when I started to get interested in learning Excel, and has been one that I follow since then. Your forum at Mr. Excel was also where I discovered that there were people out there willing to help with Excel questions. We will talk about that later in the session as well. So actually, we do have a lot to thank you for. And so that's it. Thank you for joining us and for being available to be with us today and preparing the session and all that. I'll stop talking and I'll...
Wait, how about that poll? We got to have that poll.
Yes, let's do the poll now. Okay, so let's see if this works, because I haven't done this in a long time. So launch the poll. You should get something coming up in the chat. Yes. And we want you to sort by order of importance the topics that you are most interested in, that made you come to this session today. Just put the most important one at the top, and then let's go from there.
Celia, not everybody can get at it. I'm getting a message. This feature isn't available in your version of Teams.
Oh, sorry about that.
So yeah. If you have access, you have superpowers, and like every person that votes, you're voting for 20 million people.
So maybe only business accounts would have access?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
there's a lot of people complaining about it.
Yeah. Yeah,
well, so if you don't have access, just type in the thing that you care about the most in the chat. Is it PivotTables? Is it dynamic array functions? Is it Python? Is it Copilot? Or is it Power Query?
PivotTables, Python, PivotTables, Python for me. Power Query, Python or PivotTables, Python, dynamic array. Look at this. Everything. I'm just going to cover everything. How's that?
You can start reading your book.
Lori, all except Python. Good for you, Lori. We'll put all the Python in one section. You can go grab some snaps or something.
Leave that off.
So I'm looking
Google
at the
Sheets.
results.
No, David, you're in the wrong spot. You're making me. That's funny.
So I see here 65 responses for those of you who had the chance to actually use the poll. We have Power Query on top, first place, and then PivotTables. There's Garfield there cheering for Power Query. We have two sessions coming up soon about Power Query, so don't miss those.
Hurrah.
Somebody wants to get it for photography.
Yes, we will cover some launch photography tips. It's awesome.
Okay. So we have 69 answers so far. PivotTables is still on, now PivotTables in first place, Power Query just right after that. Dynamic arrays, Python, and Copilot. Look at that. AI, the hype of the moment, is last in the. Okay.
If Jay, who barely knows how to open Excel, is my friend Jay, thanks for coming, Jay. That's great. All right, let's have some fun. What do you say?
Okay, I say yes.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. There will be no PowerPoint tonight. I just stopped using PowerPoint. Like, why do you need PowerPoint? We have Excel. It's perfectly good.
Absolutely.
Is it coming through? Is my screen there?
Yes.
Yes.
You can see it. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, left-hand side of the book, Microsoft Excel Pivot Table Data Crunching. This is like the 8th edition of this book, going all the way back to 2004. The original edition was the #1 best-selling computer book in America. For 42
Sorry,
minutes.
Bill, I may have taken your screen because I clicked the button to share the poll. Can you share again?
Let me share
yes,
again.
please.
Yeah. Okay. That book, #1 best-selling computer book in America for 44 minutes at 4 a.m. one snowy Monday in January. But that's okay. Best-selling computer book author.
Yeah, we take it.
They say you get 15 minutes of fame. I got 44. And it might have been the whole hour. Who knows? I just discovered it, at 4:15 and stayed there till the end of the hour. Someone probably bought one at that time of day. Okay, we have breaking news. Breaking news. That's crazy. Every day on the news, you start, we have breaking news. Well, this is actually pretty exciting. For me, it's pretty exciting. And the underlying story here is on the Excel team, since I've been an MVP, there's been about 6 different people in charge of pivot tables. And we have a new person in charge of pivot tables who is young and energetic and fixing things that have been driving me crazy forever. So we have a data set here, 9 columns of data: region, product, date, sector, which is industry, customer, quantity, revenue, cost of goods sold, and profit. And let's say your manager comes to you and says he wants to see total revenue by region and sector, maybe, I don't know, something, right? And the great thing about a pivot table, whether I had, in this case, 564 rows of data, or 500,000 rows of data, or using Power Query, 5 million rows of data, we can create that pivot table in about 6 clicks. But one frustrating thing, as I always do this first pivot table demo, I successfully create the pivot table in 6 clicks, but then I find that the data is always formatted as general format. So no commas, no currency symbols, no decimal points, every single time. And to fix the pivot table, to put the dollar or the commas in, the thousand separator, it takes 7 clicks. So 6 clicks to create the pivot table, 7 clicks, not just 1 extra click, and just double the number of clicks. So the other day I was doing a seminar, or maybe it was on YouTube. I don't know. I was creating a pivot table. So insert pivot table. By the way, insert is click number 1. Pivot table is click number 2. They detect the edge of the data here. I have no blank rows, no blank columns. They offer to go to a new worksheet. And I'll tell you, in real life, I go to an existing worksheet and choose, let's say, column K. I leave column J blank and then go to K2. That's where my pivot table lives. But if I did that today, it would be 8 clicks. And I promised you 6 clicks. So I'm just going to let it go to a new worksheet. If we have time later, we're going to talk about this amazing box in the lower left-hand corner called Add This Data to the Data Model. This is the worst sentence in Excel. It under-promises everything. This box should say, check this box if you want to unlock amazing features in your pivot table. And then maybe people would actually click it. But for right now, we'll just go with the plain pivot table. So insert pivot table, OK. And then over there on the left-hand side, we're in a brand new sheet that they inserted. That's where the pivot table is going to go. On the right-hand side, we have a list of all the fields. This is called the pivot table fields pane, and 4 drop zones down here. Columns are for the headings we want to cross the top. Rows are headings down the left-hand side, and values are things we want to add up. So if I just choose sector, those will go down the left-hand side like that. Make it a little bit larger. They show up in alphabetical sequence. Unless some of these were already in a custom list, then they'll follow the custom list by default. I'm going to choose revenue, and right here, this is the amazing thing that's about to happen. If you're a pivot table pro, you're not going to believe what happens when I click revenue. They brought the number format from the underlying data to the pivot table, which if you're new to this, you're like, well, of course they would do that. Yeah, well, for the last 30 years, they have not been doing that. This whole thing about we take the data off the grid and we load it into the cache and we don't know what the format is and blah, 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 blah. We can't do it. Well, hey, new person on the Excel team. And like in the first month, she does it. Like this, this is like, what do you mean? For all these 30 years, you said you could never do this. All right, 5 clicks in. Sectors down the left-hand side. What do we want across the top? I think we wanted regions. Now, I could just check mark region, but it's going to go to the wrong spot. So I'm going to take the region field. I'm going to drag it and drop it in columns like that. All right. Now, in this case, you'll see that it does not appear alphabetical. That's it should be central, east, west. It's appearing in this order. East, I'm like you. I'm on the East Coast. Toronto in the East region versus central versus west. And the company that I grew up working at, we always reported east first because that's where we were, and then central and then west. So this was the order. And I do this through a custom list. Now look, we're not going to cover a custom list today other than just maybe this quick little file options advanced. All the way down at the bottom of advanced is where you can edit custom lists. And you'll see that I have a list called East, Central, West because they're in that sequence that controls this pivot table and I don't have to move things around. By the way, if you don't have a custom list and you do have to move things around, watch this amazing trick. So right here, West, you see that West is 1,618,000. 1,618,000. I'm just going to say that a couple of times. You can actually come here. Never do this outside of a pivot table because it won't work. It'll be horrendous. But right here, I can just type the word West. And when I press enter, that 1,618,000 from cell D12 is going to jump over to B12 like that. You can rearrange a pivot table just by typing the heading where you want it to be. Isn't that crazy? Again, never do that in straight Excel. You'll just destroy the data and have bad numbers everywhere. But that is a cool trick there. I just undid. Okay, so there's our very first pivot table now with numeric formatting that follows along. One thing that they added about 3 years ago, and this one actually confuses the heck out of me. I have no idea how this works. Let's say that you happen to work for a manager who's in charge of West Region Energy. I don't know, right? And he says, I always want the West Region Energy highlighted or something like that. So we choose that one cell and we come here to home and apply any kind of a formatting to it. So I'll go with red with a white font like that. All right, so I've now manually applied formatting to West Energy as I rearrange this pivot table. Watch if I take the region field and drag it down here below sector. You see that cell, that formatting follows that cell somehow. Like anything for West Energy is going to have that formatting, including if I would add, let's say, customer. Now I only have one. That would have been more impressive if there were a bunch of customers. It would have expanded to include all of the West Energy. Like this formatting of one single cell in a pivot table is pretty crazy that works. So just be aware that appeared about 3 years ago. I'm going to come back to my agenda and we'll just kind of keep track of how we're doing here. So breaking news, number formatted in a pivot table. I'm going to try something new here. Back on the insert tab, we have this new checkbox thing. Kind of cool if you want to keep track of things. So I'm going to check things off as I get them. And I have nice conditional formatting in the cell next to me that will cross out the things as we do it. So we created our first pivot table and format one cell we talked about. Okay, let's talk about drill down. Drill down in a pivot table. This is a feature that's been in Excel hidden for the longest time, and they finally exposed it. So everyone will know that it's there. I'm going to choose one cell in the pivot table, let's say West Region Communications. That's 159,000. And my manager comes to me and says, wait a second, that number doesn't seem right. Give me the detail behind that. Well, from that one number that we select up here on the Pivot Table Analyze tab, they've added a new icon here, right? They actually got rid of an icon and added an icon called Show Details. There will be a trivia question later for what icon used to be there. And if anyone's ever actually used that icon. I've only used it once just because, I don't know, I've been there for 20 years. I'm like, what the heck does this do? So somewhere I have a video that shows what that old icon was and what it does. So I click Show Details, right? And what it does is it gives us a brand new sheet to the left of that sheet that shows me all of the records that make up that 159,000. I can select them down here and see in the status bar 159,325. So that's working. When they added the icon, they added this new feature where we get two rows at the top where it shows what cell we clicked on. So it was revenue, communications, and West, like that. So, And you can do that as much as you want. If I come here to East Region Manufacturing and go to Pivot Table Analyze and show details, we get a larger worksheet there with all of the details for that. So the feature's always been there, but you had to know that it was there, and you had to know that you could double click the cell, which is the old way to do it. And of course, if you're a person who's been using this forever and you just go and double click a cell, that continues to work with the added benefit of having an extra title up there. I just saw a little bit of chatter this week that someone is doing this with VBA, and the VBA is breaking because the VBA is not expecting that extra 2 rows to be at the top. So that I'm sure will get fixed.
And
soon.
it's interesting that for this summary sheet or for this detail sheet, it's not bringing the number formatting. So we need to bug them now.
Forget it. It'll be another 30 years for that.
We better start early.
Yeah, the data, the data model pivot tables, which I get, they're trying to like make people not use those a lot anymore. They don't get the formatting either. So
yeah,
you can tell it. Well, here's how you can tell. I'm going to whisper. This is nothing official. I don't know anything official from Microsoft, so I'm not breaking my NDA. But if they take a really good feature that I love, and they hide it where no one can ever find it anymore, you can tell that they're trying to get rid of the feature because they need to get the usage down to where it's less than 0.5% of people that use Excel, right? So there's a thing where you can put a pivot table on a map, and they took that from the Insert tab. They claim it was the least used item on the Insert tab, and when they needed room for the checkbox, they had to get rid of the worst one. Conspiracy theories about that. And by the way, on my computer, there's plenty of room out here. There's room for 3 more icons. So they took the 3D map and moved it to data model, and then 3D map. Like, who will ever find it there? I actually have a video. Where did they move 3D map to? Just for the people, I get all kinds of comments like, oh, thank you. I thought they got rid of it. No, they just hid it so that way you'll never find it. All right. Okay. So that's drill down into pivot table, kind of new. We're going to talk about change pivot table defaults. As I was going along here, you might have noticed there was a brief section where I had both region and sector along the rows area. And I hope the pivot table pros out there were jealous that I have sector in column A and region in column B, which is the right way to present this data. Back in Excel 2007, back in January 30th of 2007 is the day that they rolled out this feature where all future pivot tables would start in something called compact form. I have to tell you, I'm not a fan of compact form because they're mixing stuff in column A. They're mixing sectors and regions, and how can you tell which is which? You have to look and see what the indent level is to figure out whether it is the sector information or the region field. And that's just terrible because there's absolutely no like equal if indent. That doesn't exist. There's no way to ever detect which it is formulaically. And I get it, as humans we can see it, but I need a formula or something like that. So I despise this thing that they gave us in Excel 2007. And I started lobbying instantly when it came out to give us a checkbox somewhere that can say all future pivot tables would start in any other format other than this. For me, it's the show in tabular form is the right way to go. And also make sure that I can choose, like by default, it has these blanks out here. These blanks are just evil. We don't want blanks in the middle of our data. Excel doesn't like blanks in the middle of the data, but the pivot table has them. So I always turn on repeat all item labels. So what I asked for was a checkbox that I could say all future pivot tables would start in tabular form with repeat all labels, item labels turned on. And they finally gave us that back in 2017. So we have to go to File and then Options. And then along the left-hand side, you go to the data category. It's now the 3rd category. It had been 2nd. They moved it down. I don't know what that means. And right here, the very first button, make changes to the default layout of pivot tables. And it's called Edit Default Layout. So right here, report layout, always show in tabular form, always choose repeat all item labels. And I love that they went way beyond my request. If we go into pivot table options, you can, like for empty cells, show 0. That's something I always change. I know a lot of people will uncheck autofit column widths on update because you get the columns all right and then it changes. I even know people that love the old Excel 2003 classic pivot table layout, which enables you to drag fields right into the grid, right? Drop them on the pivot table. If you remember that old way to create pivot tables and you want to bring it back, you can now make that be the default. Your pivot tables will work the way that the old ones used to work. So I'm a big fan of that pivot table defaults. Okay, we're going to create 2 more pivot tables here. One is the top 10 report with a percentage of total. This is this really shows off a lot of things about pivot tables. So I'm going to delete everything I've created so far. And we'll just start here from the pivot and go to insert, pivot table. Okay. Down the left-hand side, I'm going to put customer. So there's a list of our customers. Try and get them all to fit. And I'm going to do something counterintuitive. I'm going to take the revenue field. I'm going to add it to the pivot table. I don't know, 3, maybe 4 times. You're like, why would you do that? Right? We have just to have sum of revenue 2, sum of revenue 3. Well, sum is the default, right? But there's all kinds of great calculations we can do here. So if I go to the second heading, sum of revenue 2, double click, you can see I can change to a sum, count, average, max, min. I need everyone who is a pivot table fan, every time you create a pivot table, to come down to the bottom of this list and see if it still ends with varp or if there's something new that appears there. Like just be on the lookout for this. And then the good one is show values as. Show values as is the ones that I use all the time. This is like where you can say I want to show it as the percentage of column total. So for that 54,048 divided by the 6.707 million, what's the percentage? And I change the heading up here to say percent of total. Total, right? So now for each one, I can see what the percentage is. Sum of revenue 3, let's go in here. There's a great setting called rank. Actually, 2 settings called rank. Rank largest to smallest or smallest to largest. I'm going to go largest to smallest, and we'll call that rank. The fourth one that does not make sense in this particular case, but would if those were dates along the left-hand side, would be a running total. That is show values as either running total in or percentage running total in, your choice. So I'll call that accumulated revenue. Right? This show values tab, all of the good stuff, the stuff that really creates interesting reports are back on that tab. All right. And then sum of revenue. I hate sum of revenue. That's just a horrible name. Like it sounds like you're a math teacher in 5th grade or something like that. Oh, we're going to do our sums today and our products. So you can just type a new heading up here like total revenue. You can type any heading up there you want, except for the one heading that you really want. They won't let you put the word revenue up there. They're going to say, no, we already have a field called revenue. You can't have a second field called revenue, which is crazy. So I just put revenue space or space revenue, and then it's fine. So there's always a workaround. Always a workaround there. Okay, so there's our pivot table. We've changed the calculation in 4 different columns. Easy to do.
Bill?
Now, yes.
Someone is commenting about the distinct count. Can you talk about that when the distinct count is available?
Boy, I'm with you. I love distinct count. Isn't distinct count great? Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna send a note into the Excel team. I'm gonna let me screenshot you. Hang on a second. I'm gonna screenshot this. I'm gonna send this note. I'm saying I was up, for the best Excel users group in the world, and this idea came in. Okay, and I'm gonna send it into the Excel team. We'll see how long it takes. Now, I've been asking for it for 20 years, right? Let's see how long it takes once it's me and someone else asking for it. That's double, right? Maybe they'll listen to you.
I'll join you.
Okay, so we got 3 of us. With 3 of us, how can they turn us down? And that's all I can say about that, right? So I'm with you. But remember, we have a new person in charge of pivot tables, right? And they gave us the number formatting. So can distinct count be that far behind? I don't know. I don't know. We'll find out. Love the question. Underscore instead of a space would help with troubleshooting. That is a great idea. So like you probably put an underscore first, like that. Ooh, I love that tip. Nope, I hate that tip. The underscore is going to drive me nuts. Thanks. I'm going to go back to just revenue. Total revenue. Okay, we're going to leave it that way. Okay, here's a hot tip. Can you call it revenue if you change it to revenue in your source? Oh, you can call it revenue if you... Oh. Okay, Jeff. I'm going to have to think about that one. So change it in the source and then change it here. That's actually a great idea. Jeff, where are you from, Jeff? I'm going to steal your trick. Revenue in the
always
source.
mentions the sources.
That's a great one. I use revenue.
He's from Toronto.
And Ron Steiner, Jeff from Toronto. All right, cool. Next, I'm going to show you a trick from Dan in Philadelphia. I ran into Dan. He spent 3.5 hours with me 20 years ago. And Dan gave me this amazing trick. So here's the setup. I have a lot of customers, too many customers. In this case, it's just half a page. But in real life, it was like 10 pages of customers. And my manager's manager, the vice president of sales, wanted a half-page summary. He just wanted, just show me the top customers. And I need to point out here that the total of this data is $6.7 million, and we're 12.96%. So Walmart, the largest customer, is 12.96% of that 6.7 million. And when I use the built-in feature here, I go into customer value filters, this amazing thing called top 10, which is horribly named because it does so much more than that. It does top or bottom. It doesn't have to be 10, it can be 5 or 500,000. And it doesn't have to be items, it can be top 80%. Give me enough records to get to $5 million, whatever. So top 5 items. When I use the built-in feature, this is correct. These are the top 5 customers, but the $6.7 million grand total just changed to $3.5 million. And worse than that, the largest customer, who had been 12.96%, is now 24.42%, which gets my auditors, they're antsy, right? If we have all of our eggs in one basket, they're going to give us an audit note in our 10K. And so that was a really bad number. We couldn't have a number that big, right? And so it's just wrong. Everything about this is wrong. And I need this number to stay at $6.7 million. Wow, that is a great car right there, or something, or an airplane just went by. I need that number to stay at $6.7 million. And on that same day, January 30th, 2007, the day where they forced compact layout on us, it's the day where they grayed out this amazing thing on the design tab, subtotals, called include filtered items in totals. If that would just get grayed out one day, then that number would change back to 6.7 million. Cell C8 would go back to 12.96%, and everything would be great. And I was in Philadelphia doing a half-day seminar complaining about this, 20 years ago, right? And a young gentleman named Dan raised his hand. He says, hey, I can do that. He says, the problem, Bill, is you're using the new filters, the PivotTable filters. You need to use the old filters, the filters back in the data tab. Those can do this with no problem at all. And I'd never heard this trick. I'm always excited to hear a new trick, like this trick I learned from Jeff in Toronto, where he put an underscore in a revenue back in the source data. That was a hot trick. So Dan said, you just have to use the regular filters. I'm excited. Never heard this, right? And so I came here and I chose a cell in the pivot table and I go to filter. Oh, but there's a problem. It's grayed out. I said, Dan, it doesn't look like it will work for me. They've grayed this out. You're not allowed to use filters. He says, yeah, most people think you're not allowed to use filters in the pivot table, he says. And then we had just a short little discussion about how do you filter and how do I filter? I choose one cell in the data, I hit the filter icon, right? But I know there's other ways to filter, like Control-Shift-L, Control-T. Some people select the whole data set like that, right? So there's lots of good ways to apply the filter. But Dan in Philadelphia had learned this cool trick where you find the very last heading cell. In this case, it's profit in I1. And you go to the blank cell to the right of that. Now, he didn't call it this, but I've started calling it the magic cell. Alt DFF. Oh, look at that. Owen. Hey, Owen, how's it going, man? Good to see you. Alt DFF. That's one I never knew. Writing that one down, Owen. Oh, I can't talk about Python today with Owen Price in the audience because he's the smartest Python guy in the entire world. But I'll cover it. Okay. From this cell right here, cell J1, watch this. From this blank cell, I'm going to hit the filter icon, and it doesn't filter J1, but it filters everything to the left, right? Now, what an obscure trick that is, that from that cell, I can turn the filters on the adjacent data set. And, I never knew this. I'm Mr. Excel. I never knew this. And the other people who don't know this are the people who make Excel. They don't know about that. There's some guy or woman, I don't know, on the Excel team who's in charge of graying out this filter. See, if I click out here into the nothingness, I'm more than welcome to filter that stuff, which makes no sense, right? But as soon as I touch the pivot table, filters are grayed out. Well, that person at Microsoft doesn't realize that cell F3 is the magic cell. And when I click F3, by all rights, they should gray out the filter, but they do not, right? And so from this cell F3, I'm about to add filter dropdowns to B, C, D, and E. This should be completely illegal, but there they are. And now instead of using the customer dropdown to go to top 10, I'm going to use cell B3, number filters, top 10, and I'm going to ask for the top, what I wanted 5, right? So watch this trick. I'm going to use the top 6. Because what happens here is this filter is pretty dumb. It doesn't realize that grand total is anything special. It just sees that as the largest item in the column. So that's the top one. And then when I ask for the next 5, I will get my report that shows the top 5 customers, the correct grand total, and the percentage of total back to the right spot. Right? Dan from Philadelphia. Do I have a selfie of Dan? Do I know Dan's last name? I do not. Right? I've used this guy's trick for every seminar I've done for 20 years. Now, one day, I was in Cincinnati. The University of Cincinnati. It was a strange room. It was very narrow and very long. In the back row, there was a guy back there. And you know these people, right? I always encourage people to show me new tricks. I usually have a prize. If it's a live seminar, I have a little prize, a little 50-cent bit of swag to hand out to those people, right? And this guy in the back row back there, he was a smart guy. Like, he gave me 2 or 3 tricks in the first hour. And then you start saying, all right, this guy has a chance to break the record. The record for a full day seminar is 8 new tricks. And that was from the entire room. And we had a guy who was on track to do this. And of course, when he wins the prize the first time, I hand him the swag, I get his name. And I say, if you want this swag, you know, this guy will be selling it on eBay later today, right? You know, that's just, right. So I get to PivotTables and I'll be darned, like, even before I could do it, he knew about the magic cell. And you know what this guy's name was? It was Dan. I said, Dan, oh my God, there's only been 2 people ever in the history of my seminars who known this trick, and they're both named Dan. Were you the Dan in Philadelphia? He claims he's never been in Philadelphia, but I don't know. You know, it has to be the same guy. He just doesn't remember the first one. You know, it's not a memorable seminar. Who knows? All right, so there we go. That's we just covered a whole bunch of stuff there. We talked about the top 10 report with the percentage of total. We talked about the magic cell. The last thing I want to show here in a regular pivot table is doing a year-over-year report. And this is really great if your calendar year ends on December 31st. It just works without adding a calendar table or anything like that. And I happen to have 2 years worth of data here, 24 and 25. I want to create a year-over-year report. So we just start with regular dates. And by the way, there's a setting in Excel that I've changed, the default setting, that I don't want Excel to group dates for me because it's unreliable. It's actually very reliable, but too hard for any normal person to understand. How they decide to group dates. So I want to choose how to group the dates. So insert pivot table, new worksheet. I put daily dates down the left-hand side, and they show up as daily dates. They don't try and group them for me, and then I'll choose revenue. All right, from either the date heading or the first date cell, it doesn't matter, either one of those. We come here to this little thing called group field. It has a little page a day calendar there with the number 7, which is only right 1 day a month, because today is the 16th. By the way, it's 416. Is the telephone area code for Toronto? Is it 416?
I guess we have that, yes.
Yeah, that was the original.
It's one of the codes, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I think getting to do a Toronto seminar on the area code date.
For the 4th.
Yeah, I mean, you reserve that for your favorite people, don't you?
Yeah, it was all planned.
I know. Yeah, everyone else. Sorry
planned.
for you. Okay, they let me roll this daily data up to seconds, minutes, hours, days, months, quarters, or years. I'm going to choose months and years, and click OK. Right. Now this is nice. I love that they changed this. They changed how this happens. It used to be that the date field would become months. Nope, they leave the date field there as dates in case I want to add it in later. I really appreciate that. That's a nice feature. They also show me that the months field came from the date and the years field came from the date. Now here it's obvious because there's only one date field, but I've had a shipping date and an order date, and they were both in the pivot table, and having one called years and one called years too was just a bad way to go. All right, so they put years along the left-hand side, but my trick is to drag them up here to the columns. I don't need the grand total, so right-click, remove grand total, and then we have last year, this year. I'm going to come outside of the pivot table and say percentage change. Formulas outside of pivot tables ever since Excel 2002. That's like 23 years. I don't think they're ever going to change this. Just have this horrible problem that if I need C5 divided by B5 minus 1, and I use the mouse or the arrow keys to select those cells. Oh, wait. What's up? It's working. Did they fix it? No, I turned off the feature. Okay, so this is what happens for everyone. So equals C5. There we go. That horrible thing. C5 divided by B5 minus 1. That is the correct answer. We're up 6.14%. But when I copy that formula down, it does not copy because it's hard-coded to work for the first month. Right? People say, I want to build a formula outside of the pivot table that I can copy, and my quick and dirty answer for that is just type the formula C5 divided by B5 minus 1, and that creates a formula that actually copies correctly. Or if you just hate get pivot data, you want to turn it off, We come here to pivot table analyze. There's an options button, but that's not the button. It's a little drop down next to it. You can uncheck generate get pivot data, and then you can build your pivot tables ever read like. All right. Yeah, so that's the regular pivot tables. Replicated pivot table. This is Celia Alves' trick. Let's just do this one really, really quick here. Tell you what, just delete. This is actually a great place to end with regular pivot tables. Celia Alves from Santa Monica, California, showed up in my seminar one day, actually carrying the first edition of the book. And when we got to pivot tables, she was on the edge of her seat. She's like, I need to create a pivot table for every single customer in the database. And I'm like, I said, that's probably going to be some VBA. And she's like, I knew it. You don't know the trick. I'm like, yeah, that happens to me all the time, Sylvia. Don't be surprised. And Sylvia showed me this great trick. I'm going to take the customer field and drag it up to filters like this, which allows me to create, of course, a pivot table for one customer at a time, or even select multiple items. I could choose multiple customers. But Sylvia's amazing trick. Come back here to the options tab, and there's now something that used to be grayed out. It's not grayed out anymore because we have something in the filter area. Show report filter pages. When I choose that, it says show all pages of customer. If I had customer and product up there, I could choose. And along the bottom, right now I'm on sheet 4, it's going to take about 10 seconds. And they just inserted a new pivot table for every single customer. Of course, make sure your pivot table is formatted correctly before you make 25 or 10,000 copies. 10,000 wouldn't work, but a few hundred copies of the data like that. Right. So what a cool trick. What a cool trick from Sylvia. Every time I see Sylvia, she doesn't have to remind me. I always thank her for that trick. So, yeah. All right, cool. Dynamic arrays. Oh, creating a pivot table without a pivot table is an awesome trick. And what's the benefit of this? The whole benefit of this is that we don't have to click refresh. If the underlying data changes, someone has to know how to go to the data tab and click refresh. And with a formula-based pivot table, it's just going to work perfectly. So they said that they were going to give us two formulas, PivotBy and GroupBy. And I get it. It's a seminar or webinar on pivot tables. We should start with PivotBy, but no, I really like GroupBy. GroupBy is so much better and easier just to understand. Okay, so the idea here is we have a database and we want to create something pivot-like out of that. And so I say equal GroupBy, and it says, all right, where are the fields we want to put along the left-hand side? So I'm going to choose category in this case. Notice I include the heading. That's kind of unusual. A lot of dynamic arrays, you don't include the heading. And then what are the things we want to add up? I'm going to choose, let's just say sales in this case. And I'm not pressing F4. I don't have to lock this down because I'm not copying it anywhere. And when I press enter, oh, next up is function. Function, this is great. They offer me a whole bunch of functions, all the functions in pivot tables, plus a few extras. Like down at the bottom, we have mode and is median in there? I don't know. Medians in there, things that are not in regular pivot tables. Today I'm just going to use a sum. All right. And what we get is there's each of the categories over on the left-hand side. Boy, wouldn't it be nice to have headings, maybe? So there's alternate or optional arguments out here. So the next one is called field headers. And I want to do yes and show. Like, I don't get it. Why would we add the headings in and not show them? I'm sure that Owen has some great use for that. But for me, I always go to number 3, so that way I get the headings. That looks good. And right now it's alphabetical, but I want to have the largest at the top. So there's a total depth. In this case, it's just grand total, so 1. And then sort order. I want to sort by the second field. So if I put a 2 in there, it's going to sort ascending. If I put a -2, it's going to sort descending. Yep. So fruit comes to the top. Oh, it's funny. It's actually already, I got to change this data. Let's just put a +2 and you see that it sorts ascending. So vegetables, herbs, and fruit. So let's go back to the descending and we'll take the vegetables and just add a bunch of data to that. We'll make that. Let's see. So vegetables comes flying to the top if in fact it is the largest. All right. So, that's a really, really cool thing we can do there. Here's one where the values area, we say that we want to add up both sales and cost. So grouping by and specifying, let's look at the formula. C4 to D21, we get both sales and cost. And then one that was not obvious and just kind of came out recently is what if we want to do what we essentially did with the example with the top 10, if we want to show sum of sales, average of sales, and percent of sales. So 3 different calculations. Someone figured out that we would put an H stack and then put all 3 calculations in there. I love that. Completely unobvious to me. I never would have figured that out. So glad to steal that from the MVP mailing list because I think that really adds a lot. There's an optional filter out here where we can say that we want to get rid of all the herbs, for example, right? So that, the very last item is a filter array. So once you get the idea of how group by works, then pivot by just adds in an extra field for what columns do we want to have going across the top, and then same thing, column total depth, do we want to show subtotals or not, and the column sort order, how do we want to sort those? So pivot by, again, the whole advantage here is that if some underlying data changes, no one has to click refresh, it just automatically recalculates, right? So that's the benefit of that. Before they gave us pivot by and group by, there was a way to do this with 3 array formulas, a unique function, a transpose of the unique function across the top, and then some ifs essentially. But we don't have to do that now with pivot by and group by. So really nice improvement there. All right, so that's dynamic arrays replacing a pivot table with pivot by or group by, and then multiple value fields. All right, a lot of people said Power Query. Is there a limit to the number of data rows pivot by and group by? I don't know. I haven't hit it. I mean, certainly, I don't know. We should try it, but not today. Yeah, I would guess you should certainly be able to go to. Yeah, I don't know. I would think it would work. Dynamic arrays themselves have a limit. Owen says. All right, thanks, Owen. All right, pivoting with Power Query. You have had so many great Power Query sessions here that this is all pretty basic to you, I'm sure. Make sure to check out Chandip's section that's coming up in a couple of months. I've seen Chandip. He's a cool guy, and he has a great book.
And we are giving away books as well in that session.
Are you really? Oh, how many?
Yeah.
How many is?
I believe 2 copies. I
Two
believe.
copies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. So here's what we have. We have data that I want to create a pivot from, and I'm going to use the tools back in the Power Query tab. I'm going to do this kind of fast because I'm sure most of you already know this. I'm going to make both this table and the sectors table into real tables. So like this one already is a real table. It's called sector table. But the pivot data, I'm going to make that into a table with Control T. And they give it a horrible name of table 2. I'm going to call it my data, which isn't any better, but I don't know, at least I got to choose that horrible name. And then for both of these, we're going to teach Power Query that these tables exist. So on the data tab, I'm going to say from table or range. I'm not going to make any changes to it. I'm just going to leave it called sector table and close and load to only create a connection. So now we've defined the Power Query that table exists. And then here, we're going to do the same thing from table or range. And the data exists, close and load to only create a connection. There's a faster way to do that without skipping that dialog box. I don't know what it is, but I know there is. All right, so now we have those 2 items. And we want to basically do a VLOOKUP to get the sales rep name in the data. Yep. Okay, so under get data, we're going to come down here to combine queries, and they have things called merge and append. You notice with append, they have to have the exact same fields. So we're appending month 1 and month 2. Merge is what we're doing here, where we're doing a lookup. So from the my data table and the sector table, we'll say that these are joined by customer and customer. And I'm trying to get sales rep added in. You can even use fuzzy matching here. We're not going to do that today. All right, so there's all the fields in the original data. That's great. And then out here, I hate that they just call this table all the way down. You have to expand and choose which field you want. So I'm trying to get sales rep. That's my goal. I don't want to use the original column name as a prefix. That would say, it would say sector table dot sales rep, right? That just looks horrible to me. All right, so there's our sales rep. Okay, now let's say that I want to get total revenue by sales rep, let's say. So first thing I'm going to do on the transform tab I want to group by. I want to group by sales rep, and the new column name is going to be called total revenue. And the operation is going to be sum, and the revenue column. Click OK. All right, and now we have created a summary report. First, we've joined those two tables, created a summary report, and created the summary. The other thing we can do here is take that sales rep field, and we want to pivot the data. So I want sales reps going across, let's say. So on the transform tab, go to pivot column, and the values column is going to be called revenue. So I have to choose revenue or profit, whichever makes more sense. And now you see that we have columns going across with Matt, Fred, Ed, Mary, and Craig, right? So we're essentially doing kind of what a pivot table would do, this time home, close and load, using Power Query. I'm pretty sure that with all the folks you've had already that have talked about Power Query, you're probably one of the smarter groups with Power Query. I find so many times I show up at a place and I say, you can do the Power Query. And the answer I get is, oh, we don't have Power Query. I know you do. You do have Power Query. It's just not called Power Query. It's back here on the data tab, hidden under this thing called Get and Transform Data. Worst marketing job ever in the history of the world. It came out between Excel 2013 and Excel 2016. No one bothered to tell the world that it's there. Just all kinds of amazing things we can do with Power Query. Okay, let's talk about Python. I'm horrible at Python. I can entertain you for about 2 minutes, and I feel bad that Owen's here because I'm just gonna, Owen knows everything about Python. I know just enough about Python just to be dangerous. My first encounter with Python was about 10.5 years ago. I was down the street here. My friend Rusty was having a birthday party, and big crowd. I don't like big crowds, especially if they're not Excel people, right? Because there's nothing to talk about. But that particular day, it was really good. Rusty's niece was there, and she's at university. And she came up to me and said, hey, I hear you're Mr. Excel. I love Excel, she says. I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun. We can talk about pivot tables. But that wasn't the end of her sentence. She said, I just wish it was as powerful as Python. Like, what? What's Python? I said. That scared me. I went out and bought a Python book that day. Like, at the party, I stopped and I ordered from Amazon the Python book. And the Python book came, and I'm reading the Python book, and yeah, you can do some cool stuff. Yeah, I want to try this. So I went back to chapter 1, which was installing Python. And that was scary stuff. Like, start with an elevated command prompt and do 46 consecutive tasks. And I just gave up. It's like, I don't know any human who could actually get this stuff installed. I don't have an IT department. So I gave it up until Excel announces that they're adding Python right inside of Excel, right? And so all of the things that you have to install, like all of these libraries, are automatically installed for you, and you don't have to add the code. Oh, this is already bad that we're not getting the initialization. Pandas and all of these libraries are just loaded for you. I wonder if this means that it's not going to work. We'll try it. All right, so I'm going to insert Python. We got a nice little green PY there that tells us that we're running Python. And it's pretty wild. We've always can expand the formula bar. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to create a new data frame. In the Excel world, we have ranges, right? In Python, it's called a data frame. It's the same thing. And every example, they call their data frames DF for data frame. You can call it whatever you want, but I'm going to conform. And so I just take the mouse and point to my data. I use Control Shift down, Control Shift right there, and they figure out this new function called XL headers equals true. So now I have a data frame that refers to that data, and I can do maybe like df.describe. It's a nice little function. This is my hello world example. I press Control Enter, and we get the word data frame. I hate that data frame. That's the default thing. Python, they want to return an object. I'm an Excel guy. I want to return values to the grid, right? So you have to come here next to the formula bar and change this thing from Python object to an Excel value, and then we get the actual data. I wish that there was a way to make that be the default, and I'm sure that someday when I grow up, I'll love the fact that it just creates an object and I can use that object later. Like, that's all good. They talk about something row-wise, like once I've defined a variable called df here, These cells know what DF is. These cells know what DF is. Even these cells know what DF is. This cell does not know what DF is. So it goes sheets left to right. And then once you define something, it knows it in that area or in that general direction. So there's our very simple first Python. Let me show you how to pivot with Python. Syntax. This is my Rosetta Stone. For people that understand regular Excel pivot tables, the things that are different here. So in the pivot table function, they have an area called values. Those are the fields you drop in the values area. But the thing you drop in the rows area, they don't call rows, they call index. And the fields in the columns area are called columns. The how you want to sum things is called AGG function, aggregate function. And they don't default to a sum, they default to mean, which means average, of course. Empty cells you can fill with, right now it's none, but you can fill it with 0. Well, I appreciate that. The word margins means do we want to have grand totals or not. Drop NA, margins name, what you want to call the grand totals. Do you want to call it all or something else? And then false for show items with no data and how the data should be sorted. Some gotchas here. So what we know as row fields are called index. It defaults to an average instead of a sum. Empty cell show is errors. You have to use fill value to avoid those errors. The grand totals are off by default. You have to turn on margin equals true. And those grand totals will be called all unless you change them with margin names. When you group by dates, you can't have grand totals. Does not sort by custom lists. That's bad for me. And then when you have 2 row fields, it's a weird arrangement of headings, and I think I have that. But some advantages, automatic recalc without a refresh. And there's some cool date grouping options that are not in regular pivot tables. Remember regular pivot tables, seconds, minutes, hours, days, months, quarters, years, with an option for weeks, which I did not show today. But you know, we have the ability to do some great extra things. So here's a pivot table where I specify the values. The index is the 2 row fields, so they're in a little square brackets there. And then column fields and sum, fill value 0, sort true, grand totals yes, and column total. So at the bottom we'll have a grand total down there. So now we're using Python to create a pivot table. Like why would we do this? Well, we can do regular pivot tables or we can do pivot by. Some really nice things here with the date grouping, like calendar day, change to a month end, semi-month end, all kinds of extra things available in Python. So, you know, there's some cool things there. And then Python has a lot of great charts that are not in Excel, right? And when I wrote this, I actually wrote this Python, like I figured it out. But today we don't have to do that, at least not if you're on the insider's fast. The best way to write Python today is just come into Copilot. And Copilot, this is a feature that I'm coming to grips with. I initially loved to hate it, right? But I realized that it's where everything is going, and so I need to embrace it. It used to be very predictable that there were 4 options that they gave us here, but now they want to confuse things, so they've chosen 20 options, and they'll show us 4 of them each time. So it's very hard to do a demo because it's unpredictable what you're going to get, and I don't know why it's taking so long to load right now. But what you want to do here is the first thing you type is either advanced analysis or the word Python, and it switches over into this super version of Copilot that'll write amazing, just amazing Python code for you on a new sheet, right? So it's not going to cooperate with me today, but you know, if you open Copilot, type the word Python, you have to acknowledge that it's going to, you know, switch over into this advanced analysis, and then you get all kinds of amazing things. Okay. All right, so pivoting with Python, we talked about that. Generating a pivot table using artificial intelligence. So it's funny with Copilot, you know, it's pretty expensive. It's like another $20 a month or $30 a month, depending on which one you do. And I hate their refund plan. Like in the first 5 days, you get a partial refund, and after that, no refunds for you. So you pay for the whole year, $360. And if you decide that this is useless and you don't want to use it, too bad. You know, you're stuck. But here's the amazing thing is we have For the last 3 or 4 years, we've had the ability to create a pivot table. Sorry, wrong one. The ability to create a pivot table or a pivot chart using artificial intelligence without using Copilot. It's been here on the home tab. Out on the far right hand side, it's called Analyze Data. This came to us from Power BI. It uses artificial intelligence. First thing it does is just it looks at the data and looks for some interesting trends. And sometimes you might discover something here. Like I didn't know I had 6 outliers in the profit column. And you click Show 36 results. There's interesting stuff, especially if it's someone else's data. If I get someone else's data, I'm going to run it through here just to see what kind of weird things they can discover. But if you come up to the top, this ask a question about your data, this allows you to create a pivot table or a pivot chart just by typing a sentence, right? So if I want to see the top 3 customers over there in column E by revenue for each sector, right? So, it recognizes sector as a field, customer as a field, revenue as a field. Each is a nice little keyword there. They offer to create this pivot table, right? And so without me knowing how to create pivot tables, just by typing a sentence, and this is a pretty advanced pivot table, is they have the top, like the value filters, they've turned on the top 10 auto show and set it to top 3, like that. That's not pivot table 101. That's kind of an advanced pivot table. And you can even say this, if I wanted to say revenue by sector as a pie chart. They create a pivot chart for me. I know people say you shouldn't use pie chart, but you can type different types of charts there. Now, Copilot lets you do this exact same thing. The difference with Copilot is it has to be saved to OneDrive. It has to have autosave turned on. I'm not a fan of autosave. I hate autosave. So like without paying for Copilot, we have analyzed data out here that lets us do a lot of the same things. So big fan of using the artificial intelligence, just analyze data. Now Copilot can do more things. It can explain formulas. It can create formulas. It can do all kinds of great things when it's working. But again, my other big problem with Copilot today is if I go to Excel and I ask for an answer, I want the same answer every day. Like the total revenue for this column is going to be the same. If that data doesn't change, I'm going to get the same thing. But with Copilot, I'm going to get a different formula each day. It's not deterministic, I think is what they say. And that drives me crazy. As an accountant, I want this thing to be reliable and predictable and for it to work. Not give me one formula one day and another formula the other day. Even if both formulas work, I want the same formula every day. All right. So,
Bill, we had a question that I missed earlier, if you don't mind.
Sure, yeah.
Alexander asked, when we do the Power Query section, which is why I say I missed it, can you please show how to do a running total the way you did for pivot tables?
Oh my gosh, I'm horrible. No, yeah, save that for Chandeep. Chandeep knows how to do that. I saw it in his book. Yeah, I don't know.
It's not easy.
Yeah, it must be there.
It requires a little bit of ebb coding manipulation there, but there's tutorials that you can find online.
Okay. And then we have a question.
Sheila has a great question. What version of Excel do I need to use Python? That's so frustrating. First thing you do is come to the Formulas tab and see if you have Python, right? It's definitely not in Excel 2024, Excel 2021, or 19. It's not in the perpetual editions. You have to have Microsoft 365. You can't have the semi-annual channel. So if you come here to File, Account, File Account, and right here, About Excel, if you're on the semi-annual channel, you definitely don't have it. It's somewhere in the monthly channel. To have the Copilot write Python, you need to be on the beta channel, which you can opt into Insiders Fast. Unless you have an IT department, then you have to go ask the IT department to switch you over. And depending on how the IT department is working right now, that can cost you a dozen donuts, depending on the IT department. So just be careful with that. If you're a consumer edition, you can opt in pretty easily. All right. Are there more questions? Actually, I have one more thing I want to show, and then let's take questions. This will take less than 2 minutes, if that's cool. This is the 40th anniversary of Excel. It's been 40 years. And so they're coming out this fall with a list of 40 favorite features in Excel and asking the MVPs to each choose 3 and have us write about them. And the one that I chose is this feature where we can take a pivot table and put that pivot table on a map. So you have postal codes in Canada. Down here we have zip codes. Same thing, right? And I have this survey data. What do I have here? I have 4,000 rows of data by zip code, and I want to plot this data on a map. So it used to be on the Insert tab, just right of the charts, but now it's on the Data tab, hidden under Data Model, and then 3D Map. So I'm going to go over here. It looks like I already have a map in here. Must be from the last time I did it. Okay, so it takes that data that has zip code information, and over here, the pivot table fields, this is basically the values area. So I'm adding up their favorite number and then using their favorite drink. The question was Coke or Pepsi. So red for Coke, blue for Pepsi. But over the years, I've had a lot of different answers at my Excel seminars. So various colors here. You can see I haven't made it up to Canada a whole lot, so I haven't gotten to ask this question, but generally I was traveling around the eastern part of the United States. And what's awesome about this is I can zoom in. So for example, let's go over here to Oklahoma City, and I can see if it was more prevalent with Coke or Pepsi. There's actually some people in multiple people in a zip code. So that one zip code there, 73013. Knowing the total of their favorite numbers of 34 isn't maybe that useful. But that's the Pepsi, that's the Dr. Pepper, and that's the Coke. So just being able to zoom in and zoom out and visualize this data. Had there been a time component, you could animate the data over time. Really cool feature that's built into Excel. And this was something that Microsoft stole from Tableau. Tableau put it in Tableau, and they rushed it in Excel 2013. It's had so many different names. It was called GeoFlow, and then Power Map, and then now 3D Maps, and now hidden on the Data tab where you'll never find it. The problem is this will never work in Excel Online, and of course, Microsoft thinks that Excel Online is the future. So because this will never work on that, they're trying to hide it to make sure that less people will be disappointed when we switch to Excel Online, like we would ever switch to Excel Online. All right, that's my highlights of pivot tables, various ways to create a pivot table, including the new GROUPBY, which I think is a really good way. And then don't forget Power Query, Python, and even the analyze data up here. And if your company licenses it, Copilot will do the same thing. So, all right, cool. Questions?
I think there's a lot of questions.
I think they got answered by Owen mostly.
That's great. Thanks, Owen. I'm so glad you're here. So glad you're here.
Because there was the group by pivot by work with structured tables was, yeah. Owen said yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But
and for the running total, if I'm not mistaken, Faraz had a YouTube a video on his YouTube channel, Excel Exciting, I think it is his channel. A long time ago, he published it about running totals. That's one I know from the top of my head, but I'm sure that if you do a search, you will find different tutorials for that.
Kevin asked a great question. How are you doing, Kevin? Good to see you again. I used to do the Dueling Excel podcast with Mike Gervin. Every time that Mike Gervin and I talk, we absolutely swear that we're going to start up again. And then we hang up the phone and never do anything. So, yeah, I got to put that on the to-do list.
Yeah, those were fun. I remember those.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It was always good. And it was so interesting how we would come at it with completely different approaches every single time. And we would decide at the end who got the point. And it was usually Mike. But so.
And
all right.
Kevin Lerbus is saying, hi, Bill.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Kevin.
I'm going to share my screen while we chat and then answer questions.
Oh, no.
So that people
Tanya,
can.
Sorry, Tanya. There's no way that I'm going to do with Jan Deep, right? That would be me showing up to a gunfight with a knife, right? I mean, it just absolutely not. No way. Oh, what is I'm sorry. Besides putting aside Copilot, what I found is I'm a huge fan of DeepSeek, and I don't know the politics behind it, and who's stealing my data, but DeepSeek gives me really, really, really good answers. And so if I have a really complicated Excel formula that I can't figure out, DeepSeek explains not just the syntax of the formula, which I could look up in Excel help, but like it understands what the formula is trying to do. It's really, really kind of cool. So yeah. Superhero. I was going to wear a cape. You know, there was good. Never mind. Okay, go ahead.
So if you guys want to still get your chance to get one of the books we are giving away today while we still chat a little bit more and answer your questions and comments, don't forget to fill in the form and we will do the draw in a couple of minutes. I'm just going to find my Excel, my form answers to see what's going on there.
So there's a question about the focus cell. Focus cell, let's see. That is so weird. You know, I had focus cell and now I don't see it. Did it go? Oh no, yeah, I have it. Yeah. Can I share again?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So this is a cool little feature. We used to have an Excel add-in that would do this back here in the View tab called Focus Cell. And the idea here is that when you choose a cell, we get this nice little green indicator. It doesn't start out green. I changed mine to be green. That lets your eye see where the active cell is, which is pretty cool. You're going to choose the focus cell color. So I chose green. Nice light green. You can choose whatever you want. And I think it also with Control F. So if I would choose Control F and search for map, let's say.
Oh, you're not sharing your screen, Bill.
Oh my gosh. Well, that is just pointless then. Let's go back and redo that again. Okay, so how about now? Yes. So under View, I turn on the focus cell, and now as I choose a cell, it highlights like these little indicators that show you what row and what column. So we used to do this with VBA. Of course, that would break the undo stack. So just a terrible, terrible solution. Like the VBA solution was never good. Underneath focus cell, you can choose what color to use. So I have a nice light green, but you can choose blue or anything, of course. And there's something about this auto highlight with find and replace, like it'll show you what it found or something like that. Although it's not, doesn't seem to be working the way I remember it working right now. So.
All right. Any other questions? So let me share, if there's no questions that need a screen share, let me share again. And if you haven't filled in for the book giveaway, just do it now because we are about to select the winners.
Can you put the QR code back in?
Yeah.
Because I can't put it in the chat.
And I'm going, let me put in the link for the form as well.
Yeah.
Because
I put the link to the book, but I think it's the physical book.
Yes,
not
me, not for the draw. Let me see here.
Leo, you have Excel expert test. The thing that's going to annoy you, the 3 questions you're not going to know are things that no one uses in Excel. And I know someone reviewed that test and said, this is pointless to put it in or Microsoft left it in there no matter what. So don't worry about it. Don't worry. You're going to get those 3 questions wrong. I get those 3 questions wrong too. Just get the other 22 questions right and you'll be good to go.
So there's the form there.
Okay.
And I'm going to also share where you can purchase the book if you want to and get 30%. Is it 30%? I believe it is 30% off 30%. With the code Jelen up to June 30th. Okay. I'm going to put that in the chat as well. And let me present again. Okay. So while you are entering your final, the last people is still entering filling in the form. I just wanted to let you know that we are about to get we are just starting a partnership with Mr. Excel, where we will have a special discount for members to get 20% off any digital copy out of Mr. Excel's bookstore. I will put the codes in the chat as well, so that everyone who is in the session has access to it. It's a code exclusive to the members of the Meetup group. You will get information by email as well. Also, if you look on the discussions area, under discussions area on our Meetup page, I publish this information there as well. You have to log in and be a member of the group to have access to that information. So all the PDF or most of the books that Bill Jelen has published over the years, or at least those who are still relevant, you can find the PDF copies and purchase them there. So I'll put information in just a minute. And Bill, very often people come and ask for help, ask me for help, and I'm sure it happens to you all the time. They have a particular question or issue that they need to solve, and they don't know where to go. They need help. It's difficult to give help to everyone for free, because we have limited time on our day and we work full time and whatnot. But there's this marvelous thing called Excel forums that I discovered when I started my Excel journey, that is packed with people who really enjoy answer Excel questions as a hobby, and so we can take that help and hopefully also give some help back if we have the time and the will for that. Bill Jelen, MrExcel.com has a forum for this type of help that has existed for many years now. And it still is active, and I usually send people there when they ask for help and that I don't have the chance to help them at the moment. Can you please let people know how they can take advantage of this resource and what's the best practice to use this type of forum?
Okay, the first thing is, I'm looking there at the number of threads in that first forum, the Excel questions forum. We're up to 1.13 million questions. So that means just about every Excel question that's ever been asked, that exists, has been asked a bunch of times. So, a lot of times if you just do a Google search, maybe with site, SITE, MrExcel.com, it should, land you at the right spot. To ask a question, the only thing we ask is, it's completely free. We ask you to sign in and create a user ID, just that way, we don't need to know that you're Mary from Chicago. We just need to know, that you're XL Gal 24 or something, right? So that way we can keep track of it. It used to be you could post anonymously, and having 7 people all called anonymous, having a discussion, you couldn't figure out what was happening. So everyone has to have a handle. And the beautiful thing is, once you're signed in, we don't show you all those annoying ads that pay for the place. So go there, post your question. The first few times you post your question, we get a lot of spam. So they probably limit your ability to post a screenshot, but I think after 5, you can post a screenshot. If you really have something complicated, there's an add-in that you can download for free that lets you take part of your Excel screen and post it to the board, including all formulas. And people can actually post then an answer in this markup code that you can copy and paste right into Excel, right? It's just my programmer, Suat, developed that add-in, and it's just amazing, right? And then just be, try and explain the situation. The thing that I see a lot is, you are at work working on the same problem 40 hours a week, and you understand all the lingo and the jargon and everything like that. And you come to us thinking we understand things as well as you do, and we don't. So you need to say, all right, look at this data. Here's Excel C15. I'm expecting this, and I'm getting that. Here's the formula I'm using. Just try and make it as simple for us to come in and say, oh, yeah, okay, I see the problem, right? And, generally, the beautiful thing about the forum, like if you catch me at the right time of day, I'm going to give you help for free. But there's a lot of times where I'm not in front of the computer, right? And we find that there's someone at the forum just about all the time. Like in the middle of my night, someone from Australia might be there. Or early morning might be someone from the UK would be there. So there's a pretty good chance that you'll get someone. And who are these people? They're just people that love Excel. I used to kill time playing solitaire, right, or Minesweeper. Well, this is more interesting than solitaire, and it's also a great way to learn Excel because if you go, I like to say it's like you're going to sit on the top of a mountain where there's 20 Excel gurus and people come up the mountain and ask questions, and you get to watch 2 or 3 gurus talk about the best way to solve a problem. Like, first off, you never even knew Excel could do that. You never even thought that Excel could do that. And now you got some of the smartest people in the world trying to, come up with a solution and discussing the solution. It's a very...
Which one is best or faster or more or shorter.
Wow. And sometimes, like the original poster that we call them the OP, like they were happy with the first answer they got. Like, yeah, they're off. It doesn't matter that person is left. The 2 or 3 gurus will continue to discuss, until someone comes up with what they decide is the best, it's like, it's the Excel, just the Excel geek kingdom, right? And I love those conversations. Like what's the absolute, you can't go to a regular party and have a conversation about the best way to use XLOOKUP. You would get kicked out of the party, or people would stop talking or stop inviting you to parties. But in this group, like, it's fascinating to, to us. So, yeah.
And there's questions that someone posted there many years ago, and then all of a sudden someone has the same question and finds the answer there, and it keeps on giving.
I love Microsoft, but they, every few years they just clear out the old questions from answers, and it's like, no, like that the way to solve that problem in 2003 is the exact same way to solve that problem today. Never get rid of that old stuff. Like, it still works. I love it. The YouTube channel, I'll get like a 2008 video and someone will be like, wow, this still works. Yes, it's still Excel, right? It's still the exact same thing.
Yeah, there might be other more modern ways of solving, but that one still works. And Microsoft goes through a lot of trouble to make sure that they don't break anything that was working in the past. They come up with new stuff, but the old stuff needs to keep working, right?
They try, don't they?
Yeah, or every
once in a while. I remember one conversation, a project manager on the Excel team, like, oh, we have this great idea. We're gonna give people a new shortcut. The control something is gonna do some amazing thing. I'm like, oh, hang on, that already does something else. Oh, I'm like, yes, it does. I mean, it's just it's their job. They just got assigned to the Excel team a few years ago. A lot of us know Excel sometimes better than they do, especially the new PMs, or we have a wider breadth of knowledge. So
yeah. Okay, so are we ready for the draw? We have 85 rows, but the first 2 was me testing the form, so we have 83. We can choose, Bill, I'm going to ask you to choose numbers between 3, inclusive 3 up to 85.
So we're going to do a RAM between of 3 and 85, like that?
Yeah. Do you want to share your screen? If you want to share, or in case people don't know RAM between, and then I'll go and put the numbers here on my form.
Okay, so equal RAM between of 3 and 85 is a great way to choose an integer between 3 and 85. But since we want to give away 3 of them, let's use the new rand array. So we want 3 rows, 1 column. The minimum value is 3. The maximum value is 85. And integer, yes, we don't want any decimals. This one formula is going to give us all 3 winners. And so we get number 64, number 67, and number 17.
Okay, 64, 67, 17. Let me share my screen here to see who that is. 64, 67, 17. Okay. So 64 is Raul Reda. Are you still here, Raul? Let us know in the chat. And then 67. Cheryl Foster. Is Cheryl Foster in the house? And then also Reda. is there,
yes, yes.
Raul. And Cheryl
Cheryl is
Foster,
there.
yes, great. So we have one more, 17. Who is 17?
Dun, dun,
Joanne. And I cannot pronounce the last name. Sorry, I'm going to miss on that. So.
And
Thank you.
Joanne is there.
And she's here as well. So great. You are the lucky winners.
And Joanne is in Edmonton.
Oh, wonderful.
With the Oilers.
Okay, so all of you guys will get an email soon with whatever you need to do to get your copy. I will send the email addresses to you, Bill, and then you can take care of that if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'll take
Congratulations to all the winners.
Yeah.
And
Darn is still here.
Yes. Okay, so Bill, thank you so much. It was a really fun session, as always.
Thanks, sir.
Let me just bring up your contact slide there in case people want to get in touch with you, find your content and all that. Let us know what else, final words, if you have any final advice or any ways where people can find you, or let us know.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Thanks for all the comments. I will get Mike Irvin on the line and we'll start doing some more duels. Yeah. So, all right. Hey, thanks for the invite. I really appreciate it, and thanks for everyone stopping in tonight on a nice Wednesday night. So on 416 day.
Yes, the primary area code in Toronto, and it all happened in the same time, having you just right after we reached the 5,000 members and having all the interest, people joining the meetup group and subscribing, enrolling in this session to learn about all the topics that the different ways we can build pivot tables with. And thank you so much for sharing and for writing the book. I hope people can purchase the book now that you know you are not a winner. You can get your copy. And thank you. It was a pleasure. And thank you also for the discounts you are giving the meetup group members. I really appreciate that, and hope to have you back. And in fact, you are going to come back. Yes, I didn't post on the new next sessions because we don't have details finalized, but Bill has another interesting topic. This time it will be in one of those shorter sessions for Excel Essentials. So stay tuned, and we will have Bill coming up soon during the summer time.
Cool. All right.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. It was wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
And I'll stop sharing. And if there's anything else you want to say, now it's the time. And I will stop the recording now, and then we will be ending the session. Thank you again, and the recording will be up soon. Stop recording. Thank you, Bill.
All right.